Yeah, welcome back. So now I want to be able to click my user and get to a details page. And now of course we could go in and make, like I've shown you here, make a full stack call so that we get a new route called user details. I don't want that. I want to use the user route. So we're going to do this manually. To get to the current code that I'm at right now, before any changes, it's version 02.25. My guess it is going to be 26 if you want the full code. But right now you have to check out version 25 to follow along with what I'm doing here. So what do we want to do? We want to be able to click this guy and go to another route. But still I wanted to keep user. I just wanted to add actually just the user ID in the end. That would be something like that in the end of it. So I wanted to be able to do this. But I want to keep it in the same folder. It should still be called user, stuff like that. So we're going to do this manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going over here again, and what I need is a controller. So let's start out with making a new controller. New file is going to be user-details.controller.js. Okay, so that's the user details controller, not the user controller. I'm going to also need at least an HTML file. So let's make an user details.html. Now we have the two things that we need. I could also add a CSS file, but I'm not going to require that for my lesson at least, but you could add that as well. Let's just steal this user into the user controller here, because it's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to have some differences there, but let's just grab this as a beginning. The same for the HTML. Nah, let's not take that right now. So what do we actually need here? Well, of course we don't need to query all users. I just want to query one specific user. And how do we do that? Well, the easiest way to find that out is pretty much to go into the weak one, because we use that there. Again, I know that I'm jumping around and reusing code, but it's just to show you, you have it all here. You have everything, every piece that you need to create a full-featured web app is here. You just need to find where it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the syllabus service get here, going back to my user controller, because instead of actually having all the users here, I'll just query for a single user. Right? That's all I want. And I'm going to use the state param here to get the ID for the specific user. So let's add that here. Actually, let's add that with all the other Angular specific ones. When you see the $sign, is probably something Angular built for you. So I want to get a specific user, not a specific syllabus. And when I get that user back, I want to add him to the scope. Okay, so that's pretty much all I had to do. Now I can actually get a user in my controller. And just to make it easy, I'll just add this user here, just like we did with the week. So let's look at the week plan. I want the nav bar back, and I want all of this. Let's just copy paste it. There's a lot I can remove here, but now I pretty much have everything to make a new user available. And right now the user had a name and an email, so I'm just going to add that right here. Do we want the URL? No, we don't want that. I just want the username and the email. Just make it simple here. So I'm getting in a user, so he has a name and he has an email. Now this is really boring. I know, I'm sorry. We'll have to make it more pretty later. Let's just remove all of the other things down here just to get going here. Boink, there we go. Save this. There's a back button, that works fine still. Well, of course we need it in the controller. So there must be something here called go back. In the weak controller, I'll copy that into the user controller, paste that in. We don't need to unsync here because I just removed the listening. Maybe we'll put that back later, but right now I don't need to listen for changes to the entire user setup. So now I should actually be able to see a user here. But how do I get there? That's the next step. Well, the cool thing is when you go in here, we can just add a new state. So I'll add a new state here, and instead of calling it user, I'll just call the state user detail. User details. And instead of adding this guy, he'll actually have an ID in the end like this. Again, I think we can check out the weak one, and here you'll see this is actually how you do it. I also have to tell this guy, where do I actually find the user detail and what controller will I use? Well, let's look at the controller name. It's actually called user controller. That's not correct. The controller should be called user details controller now. So let's go down to the user.js and change that. Okay, where do I find the actual page? Well, that's pretty simple. user details.html, and now I'm pretty much done. All I have to do is somehow try and go to this page when I actually click the button. Do we have an example of that? Well, let's look at the syllabus controller, because that's how we get to a week plan. Maybe that has something that can help us out. Ooh, here's one. Go to syllabus. Let's copy that. Go to syllabus. That sounds like something we can use. But now it should be used in the user controller, right? Because we want to go to user details. Okay, let's grab this, say go to user instead. And again, just notice that I'm pretty much just copy pasting code that's already running. I'm going to change the name to go to user. I want to go to the user. And what is this state thing? Well, let's have a look at the user down here. The state is actually this guy right here. Okay, so I actually put in the wrong one because I want to go to user detail state. That's the name of the state. So let's put that in here instead. User detail state. What do I want to send? I want to send the ID of the user. Let's save that. Now one thing I have to change is also inside the HTML. When I click the button, I should of course hit this function, go to user. I'm not sure if I named it that, so let's check it out. I actually have one here called edit user. Let's change that to go to user. Save that. Should be it. We should be up and running. I've saved everything. Going back out here, and I'm just going to try and refresh my page. Oh, I have an issue. Woo, issues. It's awesome. Can I get to user details CSS? So it actually expects there's a CSS file. Well, let's just generate it. I'm not going to fight the system here. It makes sense to make a CSS file for this. So there we go. I'll save that. Let's actually just call it user-details. Rename user-details.css. There we go. Then it's up here. Just go back and see if that actually helped me. I think I'll have to restart my grunt. It seems that it's been coughing a bit here. So let's just restart grunt to see if it can actually change the index file as required. Hopefully then everything will be running, and if not, I'll have to dig deeper. Yeah, everything is back and running. Again, sometimes I've seen some issues with grunt. I just do a restart and hopefully it helps. So now I can see my users. If I click a single user, I get to the test user. Woohoo! Go back, I'll click the single admin, I'll get to the admin.